The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Williams, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this president comes closer to his final year in office, it is no secret that he only cares about shaping and molding his legacy. When discussing the Iran deal last year, his deputy national security advisor said to reporters, quote, "This is probably the biggest thing President Obama will do in his second term on foreign policy. This is health care for us." 4 years earlier, that health care, or Obamacare, was described by our vice president as, quote, "a big expletive deal." But only time will shape this president's legacy. 75 years ago, Winston Churchill proclaimed that Neville Chamberlain had, quote, "a precision of mind and an aptitude for business which raised him far above the ordinary levels of our generation." And although this description is far too generous to describe our current president, who has no aptitude for business, Mr. Chamberlain was portrayed in a very different light than he is today. If he could be characterized in one word today, it would be appeaser. Regardless of his intellect, Mr. Chamberlain's incorrect decision to concede to Adolf Hitler's demands for the purpose of avoiding a conflict in Europe overshadowed anything else he ever accomplished as Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Iran deal, I believe, is President Obama's Chamberlain moment. As the Associated Press reported 2 weeks ago, under this deal, Iran, quote, "will be allowed to use its own inspectors to investigate a site it has been accused of using to develop nuclear arms." These reported secret deals acknowledge what many of us have known to be true and confirms that President Obama and his administration still deny, that this deal is based on trust. This deal is based on trusting the Iranians that they will not break their promise to build a nuclear bomb. How can we trust Iran's supreme leader who chants death to America and death to Israel? How can we trust a supreme leader who said this week Israel will not exist in 25 years? As the former Democratic chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee appropriately said, this deal would be, quote, "the equivalent of having an athlete accused of using performance-enhancing drugs submit an unsupervised urine sample." Any deal with Iran must protect America's interest at home and abroad, and this deal does not. As Israel's Prime Minister warned in his speech before this very chamber only a few months ago, Iran's regime poses a grave threat, not only to Israel, but also to the peace of the entire world. The President and his deal supporters have ignored these warnings. This deal will shift the balance of power in the Middle East. This deal goes against the wishes of Israel, our greatest ally in the region. And I challenge all of my Democratic colleagues who support this deal to come to the floor and look into the camera and, quite frankly, look in the mirror. So when history comes full circle, the American people will know who in this body let our Neville Chamberlain give Iran the bomb. Despite the warnings from those within his own party and leaders of ally nations, this president has made it clear he is not concerned about the safety of Americans. This president and his administration has made it clear they are not concerned about Israel. This president and his administration has made it well known that they are not concerned about the fate of the world. And this president and his administration are only concerned with the legacy they have in the future. For that reason, I ask you, Mr. Speaker, is this president prepared to suffer the same legacy as Neville Chamberlain? I urge President Obama and his administration to simply let their conscience be their guide. In God we trust. I yield back.
The gentleman from Texas yields back.